Good morning, traders. Welcome to the pre-market stream that we open up to the public every single Wednesday. Thanks for joining us this morning. This is Spartan speaking, by the way. Giving you guys a little bit of a breakdown on what's going to happen this morning. Once I'm done speaking here, Beth, Mama's Options will come on, give you a breakdown of what she's looking at from a macro perspective, going through any bigger picture items for today, commodities or ETFs, as well as big cap names that make sense to be looking at. Once that's done, I'm going to come on, give you a breakdown of the individual names I'm looking at that are gapping up, gapping down. We'll build an action plan for those names that are gapping up, gapping down. Also take a look at the news that are causing those gaps and go through the SPY, the FANG, the Qs, the IWM, and the VIX. Once that's done, I'll pass it over to South Beach while I type out the pre-market action plan. And he'll go through any sort of analyst calls that make sense to be looking at for today, as well as individual names and macro events that he is considering and looking at. Once that's done, we'll do a quick little recap of what I talked about in regards to those individual names in the SPY and the FANG, and then we'll be ready for the open. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead, pass over to Beth, guys, and I'll talk to you shortly. Beth, it's all yours.
Thank you, sir. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, my friends. Welcome. Pre-market here at Spartan Trading. This is what we do every morning. It's interesting to see yesterday the blowback that we saw on the oil side, and then DD, China, etc. And yet here we are at all-time highs, right? It's wondrous to see how things play out. With that said, some of the data overnight, guys, this morning has been pretty soft out of Europe. German factory orders like this. This is a big miss. This never happens. They're really great at forecasting, and this is really very surprising. The construction as well, the construction PMI, retail sales was better than expected on the European side, but year over year was softer. It really, and the zoo, economic sentiment. So we're seeing the Delta variant filter in terms of the data right now. And I suspect that this will be another reason why the Fed, who's quiet until September, is going to continue to take a wait and see, because we really don't know. And we've talked about this many, many times, the pockets of closure that will inevitably happen as the Delta variant takes hold in areas that are under-vaccinated. And it's literally that simple throughout the globally as well as domestically. Who knows? We do have some economic data today, ISM, monkey, PMI. See how that goes. And then I think everybody's kind of on tenterhooks for tomorrow to see what the inflation numbers look like, right, on Wednesday. We have the jolts. I don't know. It's fascinating. Yesterday, pre-market, I talked about what happened with the oil, all the red flags that came in, and then it cascaded lower, and yet the institutions are going to buy this. Any serious dip, not so much on the oil side, but on the refiner side. I'm looking at it, MLP, and we'll talk about that a little bit down the road. Okay, the Chinese government, I think, overreached, and I think they basically took a sledgehammer to kill a gnat. The implications for what they're doing in terms of control, and they're saying that they didn't want DD to do the IPO. DD saying, well, we didn't get clear signals. It doesn't matter. The fallout is just breathtaking in terms of, do they want companies listed in the United States? That's the first question, right? I don't know. They're being very, 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 very aggressive right now. We'll see. We shall see. And this continues to put them in the penalty box. I mean, I understand with, technical bounces and stuff, and I'm playing these bounces with Baidu, Baba, etc. But only it's not, it's kind of for me like speed dating. So I'm maybe holding hands, but nothing beyond a couple weeks. I mean, nobody's moving in or anything like that, all right? So and this could take months, potentially years in the penalty box for me. Let's see what our gal's doing here. I love to see what she's buying. So for me, one of the things that was notable was her buying of Netflix, continue to buy Netflix. She's trying to bring it up to the exposure with Roku. And as you can see here, Roku exposure is 38. There's a couple things. This is a lot. She keeps buying Docu, which is a lot. This sort of percentage exposure for her. So it's fascinating to see how she's tweaking things. She's still selling JD. She's selling SE. She wants to get out a lot of overseas stuff, but she bought Disney. I don't know about that one. Disney is just, I'd rather be in Roku. I'd rather be in Roku and Netflix than Disney right now. Just in terms of bang for my buck. All right. Let's take a look at our gal Sue, Lisa Sue. She says we're still quite tight. We've heard all kinds of stuff going on. For her to come out and say that, I think is pretty notable, that she would come out notably and say, okay, well, yeah, it's still tight. This whole supply chain is fascinating to see how it unravels. And for those of you who haven't been in the market a long time, when you have supply chain disruption, you get the spike in terms of prices, but then you get the flooding in the marketplace. The question is going to be is inventory, how that's dealt with. And because we know that we have like a, GM and all these others, Apple, they're all making their own chips. I don't know how this plays out, but we are entering strong seasonality on the chip side, semi side. So that's notable. Okay. All right, let's take a look what's going on in terms of some of these analysts. I like to look at this mainly to see the top dogs, what they're going after, and see how that plays in. So, I mean, Benzinga, I like to look at tip ranks. And the reason why I look at tip ranks is because I get to see who the top dog is. And for me, the top dog is anybody who's 70% or greater in terms of their success rate. Plus, I'm looking at 20% up or down, upside 10 to 20, yada, yada, yada. Mark Rothschild, Canaccord, AHOTF. So when I see something like that, I'll see if there's what the flows look like, and then I might, and he did this yesterday, and then I might follow in on any sweeps that come in. Yesterday, not a pretty picture on the energy side, right? But year to date, good golly, Miss Ramali, still top dog, 39%, right? Whatever. I've mentioned this a number of times, institutions are too light when it comes in terms of refiners, in terms of on the oil side, not so much the physical, I'm not talking about physical, but in terms of putting their clients into the oil sector. Every quarter I get my review, every quarter from Schwab under their managed money, they don't have me in oil at all. So, and that comes down from the economists, right? They basically say, okay, well, you should allocate XYZ, 3 to 5%. It's like a tanker in a pond. They got out a couple of years ago for them to get back in. And once they start getting back in, that's going to be a huge tailwind for a lot of these companies, guys. All right, yes, let's see what happened. Oh my goodness gracious. This was, it was interesting, but because midday, this was 55, 57%. Then by the end of the day, it got to 60%. So you can see there was a lot of two-way option flows going on yesterday, which is not a bad thing, right? Not incredibly bullish, but not a bad thing. So if we look in terms of top dogs, money flows wise, Apple still, God bless it's a lot. And I kept saying 143, 143, 143, 143 for this week. They were hammering these calls aggressively. Guess what? 143.21 today. Kicking ass on this. What's going to happen for those of you who've been following me on Twitter as well as in the room? I've been doing a lot of Delta trades for weeks now, months. We'll continue to add that. We rolled, we're still in the 150s for next week. We rolled some Septembers, and that's the theme. And we're going to go with specifically what I'm looking for as a price target in Apple. It's just starting, guys. Once we break all-time highs, momentum. Yesterday, you saw the power When Amazon, you wait for 12 freaking months and then it breaks out. You saw the power of what that looks like. And I'll go over in detail as well what I'm looking for in terms of price target. Okay, so believe it or not, value to growth, value. NASDAQ composite after 52-week high with less than 35% advancing. So this is the breadth issue, right? Bearish. And this is notable in the sense that short term, right? So that's 83% 1 month out. The NASDAQ is down, right? This is 67%. Yeah, but what about on the other side here? What happens when value versus growth ratio, right? This goes back to 1932, guys. Value outperforms growth. Now, one has to say, okay, well, how do you define value? And that is the penultimate question. Well, how are you going to define? For me, value is, it doesn't matter whether it's high beta, low beta, I don't care, okay? If basically it makes money and its PE multiple has gone down and it continues to be making money, like I could argue that Apple is a value stock right now, value and growth. So that's like fantastic. And this is what Kramer's been pounding the table on with Amazon, with Apple. These are two stocks, believe it or not, that are actually inexpensive. I don't want to say cheap, but if you look in terms of what's going on in terms of PE multiples with other names, Apple and a lot of fame, I could argue, is a value trade now, right? So what does this mean? 1 month, 3 months out, 88%, 6, 7, well, you can see it's bullish, okay? It's just something that we have to keep an eye on, that we have reached a point and continue to reach a point in terms of what's going on with the NASDAQ, right? With what happened with the Russell, that it now switches back to small caps as well as value. What does that mean? Spartan kicks ass, picks us momentum, short-term trades, breaking out, whether it's daily, weekly, monthly, all-time highs, who cares? That's the narrative, and that's what we look at, right? So the S&P, as you can see, struggles. So there's a sweet spot here, guys, and the sweet spot is going to be individual tickers with a bent towards small caps. All right, flows. Not a lot out. This is not a lot, guys. This is, yeah, Q's in, but you know, you with what happened yesterday, you would say, oh my God, energy, yada, yada, yada. No, nothing. Okay. So what we saw was a lot of the physical decline in the crude, as well as some of the individual tickers. What I want to see today is I want to see like an Oxy. I want to see like, you know, Halliburton. I want to see certain tickers get multiple call sweeps, and then I'm going to follow those. All right, heat map. Bonds. This is fantastic. This is a great heat map. Right? EWZ 8. Anything that's single digits really gets my attention, FXI. So we should anticipate and expect a bounce. And what does this mean? This means that on the extension on the downside, it's much more impactful than on the upside. And that basically gets us to the Keynesian rules, right? In terms of, you know, solvency. Don't pick a top in the market. It can stay stretched and extended for whatever, right? On the downside, though, that's not the case, right? So this is like a rubber band elasticity. It's telling us that we will be getting a bounce in the FXI. We're already seeing that today, right? And we'll see how that plays out. Is this a keeper? No, I just wish this XLE was single digits, but it's not. OIH, all of these, I wanted to see these single digits, but they weren't. So it's not as, I can't be as aggressive as I would be with something like an FXI. Right. It's broken. Fear and greed index is broken. A lot of these things, even South Beach's thing is broken. Okay, there's stuff going on here, guys, which is absolutely positively disconnect, right? Well, you have a fear and greed index in the 30s with fear, and yet here we are pushing all time. It's broken. I don't know how long, but it's broken. Okay, fantastic news, guys. The VXN did not reclaim this 2142. Okay, that's a big deal. But on the other side, It didn't break and hold. This is a monthly chart. It didn't break and hold below this. So we got a double bottom here, right? And then we have to put our, downtrend lines on. This is, see how it plays out, right? The skew was telling us, everything was telling us that a lot of the institutions have hedges on. This is what it's telling us. And yet here we are, continuing to push high. Do we have a FOMO type rally potential? Yeah, we actually could get a FOMO type rally potential. I don't know. Let's see. Okay, so that's not what I wanted to look at. Here we go. 10-year. It was interesting because Twins mentioned that a lot of what we saw yesterday was an unwind on an, from an asset manager, and pension, whatever. And here we are sitting. So guess what? Interest rates are going down. Crazy, right? What a world we live in. So now, if we can't reclaim this is a monthly, this pivot right here, 130.46, we're basically going to go be down at 104. Isn't that crazy? How is that possible? Oh my God, inflation. How is this possible? This takes a lot of pressure off the Fed too. Here's the 210, breaking down as well. Right? So, it's all about yield curve right now, guys. 5-year quickly coming back down. I don't see this breaking down, but if it does, this is actually quite bullish for the market, right? Here's the German 10-year, A2. And here we thought it was going back to PO. Oh, no. Sitting right there, the data out of Germany is soft, so we expect it probably to be another breakdown on that. And here we have the Chinese who are also lowering their interest rates. So I think that's pretty fascinating to see what's going on there as well. Once again, the Chinese are playing with fire with that. And I think a lot of the saber rattling has to do with the, the anniversary and stuff, but gotta look tough. Across the board, bouncing the market here, as you can see, except in Singapore. Nikkei's down, Kospi, right? Now, where does this get us? Gets us as a bounce, that's what it gets us. All right, here's on the Forex side, let's see what's going on. Here's my dollar, here's my dollar. Got rebuffed, thankfully, at this monthly downtrend line. The dollar doesn't belong here. The dollar belongs lower. It needs to go lower. That's my story, I'm sticking to it. Let's take a look at gold. Dollar gold is starting to bounce, continue to bounce against the dollar. This is a bullish narrative, obviously, for gold, right? And then we have the Chinese yuan. We're watching this carefully. And the reason why we're watching this, guys, is because to see what the government's going to do. This is heavily controlled, the yuan, the new one. To be honest with you, the market would want to see it actually start to strengthen, not weaken. So at the upper end of the quadrant, this is monthly at the double top here. We now have a triple top. It's all depending on what the Chinese government wants to do. Commodities, you can see here, gold's up, right? Crude's, West Texas is down, right? Brent is up. It's all over the place, right? So it was head bounce and now it's pulling back. Okay. You can see here aluminum, zinc, nickel, copper, tin. And to me, lumber is the most important commodity right now. Right? All right, CRB, you can see that coming down. Right? All right, let's take a quick look at the crude. Reclaiming last month's high, but it's getting stuck again. That's a topping tail, not bullish. Gold, crude, stuck right here. Fantastic. I don't know which way that's going to break. USO above the pivot 49.46. Oil, this was why I said danger, danger, danger. Double top, didn't break out, should have broken out, didn't happen. XLE, same thing, negative right now. We have to wait to see if it can break this downtrend line on the weekly, right? XOP, same thing, double top, into also an EMA, okay? Shanghai, neutral. Baba Baidu, Baba is starting to gain a little bit against Baidu. I would not be in anything naked right now. I have all kinds of spreads on them, and I have Baba puts and Baba calls, so I have strangles on across the board. Baidu, okay, let's see if we can actually get back to the 190.83, right, which is the 50 EMA on the weekly. I'm looking at JD because this is the one I actually want to do, is this JD, Baba JD, if it starts to break down. So that would mean that Baba's weakening against JD. I'd want to buy JD calls, and we have seen JD calls coming in. All right, so I'm keeping an eye on JD right now. Baba, what a hot mess, right? It's hard to believe last week where we were, and now where we are. It did reclaim this extension, guys, though, so that's notable. KWeb, 6390, guys. That's it. That's the extension that it has to reclaim. FANG. This is the candle right here. No, crazy, right? Apple hasn't broken out yet. When it does, my price target on Apple is going to be minimally 206 by end of the year. Why? Because if you look, and this is a measured move, when last time it broke out of this multi-month sideways consolidation, you can see it does this from time to time, right? It basically moved on the breakout $62, which is 75%. On a measured move on the breakout, if it happens, that would get us $62, 207.39. And when the breakout actually occurred, it was a 5-month move, end of the year. There you go. So 200 or bust by end of the year on Apple. Microsoft Apple, fascinating. Microsoft is starting to weaken against Apple. This is a monthly chart, guys. This is going to be a big deal. So if this does happen, then Apple will outperform Microsoft by 11%. Keep an eye on this one. Why am I doing this? I'm telling you, in terms of best bang for your buck. Literally, that's what I'm doing. Okay. Here's Apple XLK. Apple starting to outperform XLK. Once again, we're starting to see that happen. What does that get us? It gets probably not as much as you would think on this. Into this is like 3%, 2.8%. Amazon, guys, 5,000 or bust. Measured move off of this previous time when we had a almost, it was like, it was a long time, 12 months. 5 months to go. 1,384, 63%, 1,384 measured move on the breakout that just happened is 49.58, 5,000 or bust by end of the year. I'm not kidding about this stuff, guys. I'm not. This is very powerful stuff when you have all-time high breakouts and you've been consolidating for a year, right? Amazon XLY trying to break out right now. Let's see if it can. If it does, once again, Amazon will outperform XLY by 4.67% initially. Amazon against Tesla. This could be a huge one, guys. Absolutely, positively freaking huge. If we break out, Amazon breaks out against Tesla, Amazon will outperform Tesla by 31%. What does that mean? Amazon can go up, Tesla can go down, Tesla does nothing, Amazon can go up. I mean, there's all kinds of parameters that you could look at. This will be a huge trade that we will take if we can break out, right? It's all about money. Amazon, Apple, look at this, guys. Consolidative, nothing here yet. This is the monthly, right? Keeping an eye on that. If it does, this is what's fascinating, guys. Last time Amazon actually broke out, all-time highs. Apple did as well. And look at this. Amazon actually lost against Apple. Just saying. Crazy, I know. Anyways, my time is up. Welcome once again for those of you joining us pre-market here, joining our YouTube live stream as well. Are you ready, sir?
Just need about a minute here, Beth.
Not a problem. Okay, so like I say, Amazon is starting to outperform, but it's a consolidated pattern right now. So what has to happen for me? Basically, we have to take out this level right here. That's the level. Okay, we take that out, then obviously Amazon will start to outperform Apple. And then what you do is you put your fibs in. And this is why it's so important to understand relationships, okay? What happens, where we go, et cetera, et cetera. So first things first, we take out this pivot right here. You would expect and anticipate Amazon to get up to this level here minimally, which is a 3.5%, not a lot, right? But probably here, 5.5% outperform. Now, to be honest with you, Amazon's an expensive stock, so it's hard, and it's just really hard to do a trade like this. But just be aware that this is what it's telling us. Okay, if it does not, and it goes, and Apple starts to break out, that's the cheap trade right there. Then we can start thinking about, this is going to be exciting for us, because Apple as a whole is cheap. I want you to keep an eye on Shopify, guys. The same sort of setup is coming in Shopify. Trying to break all-time highs, multi-month consolidation pattern, right? Measured move, I'm actually looking for Shopify, guys, to get up to 2,100. And I'm looking for it to get up to 2,100 by the end of the year. Crazy, I know. But all of these, when they break out, because the momentum breakout, it's a 5-month tailwind, right? That's the sweet spot. So I'm looking desperately to find a trade for the room on Shopify so that we can have a little bit of fun with that. The problem with Shopify is the only way to do it is similar to Amazon, but with Shopify in particular, are butterflies. We're in a butterfly, but it's screaming past it right now. So I'm trying to find another butterfly for the room that would make sense to stack on top of for the end of the year. That would look at that 2,100. Right? It's just really expensive. But for those of you who are short-term traders, this is the setup that you're looking for. Minimally, I'd look for 1753, like really fast coming our way, right? With that, probably you could look at it by September, something like that, right? So that's kind of what I'm thinking about right now, to be honest with you. Okay, let's take a look also at. I want to look at Microsoft too. This is another one I just absolutely love. And Netflix, those are the ones that I'm starting to really get favor with. Microsoft pulled back, I know, right? But I think it's just consolidative. I actually put on a Delta trade with it. We'll see. I still like Microsoft. I still think we're going to 285 on it. This will be interesting to see as a Lotto type trade to see if we can get the same sort of price action that we got last Friday on it. Also, the one that I'm continuing to add to as well as Netflix. I know that Twins likes it too. This one I have longer dated leaps on, but I'm just keeping an eye on this one. This has the same setup, guys. Multi-month sideways consolidation, right? And this consolidation has gone on for a year. This is another one that, just be aware as it starts to march higher, if we start to break out, we're going to get a kick-ass rally in Netflix, right? So these are the types of things you want to focus in on in terms of individual names. These sort of multi-month breakouts, all-time high breakouts, it's just crazy FOMO type extensions that you get on it. Now, if you look in terms of on a measured move here, I have a look, let's see when Spartan gets up, right? Gets back on. So,
All right, Beth, I'm ready to come on right now.
Okay, that's fine.
Thank you so much, guys. Morning. What's going on? Let me just pop up the screen share here. All righty. So if you guys are new to the chat, the Discord link was emailed to you. If you don't find it, it's in your junk mail. We'll talk more about that later, and as well as what to do when to come in once we do close down the YouTube stream. So let's just quickly dive in and see what we got going on today, guys. So pre-market tickers on watch, a couple different things that we're looking at today, guys. Shop, NVIDIA, Zoom, BHVN, OPNT, and DARE. So Shop, gapping up continuation from last day's move. NVIDIA, same thing. Same with Zoom, gapping up continuation with last day's move. BHVN, Biohaven reports Q2 Neurotech ODT sales of 93 million. Stocks gapping up on that. OPNT Pharmaceuticals announces positive top-line results for their confirmatory pharmacokinetic study for OPNT003, nasal nail film, basically gapping up on positive results. And then Dare Biosciences on June 30th entered into an agreement with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, were awarded $48.95 million to support development of their Dare LARC1. Stocks gapping up on that. All right, let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. First two names that we're going to be looking at today, guys, Shop and NVIDIA. All right, guys, so Shop, stocks gapping up. Just above all-time highs from yesterday. Or sorry, all-time highs from previously, but gapping up from yesterday, I should say. I will actually label that exact. 15552. There we go. Yeah, okay, so that's good. That's good. All right. All right, let's take a look at the shop here. So stocks gapping up. 1587. What's the 1622? Okay, good. All right, so pivot to the upside today is going to be last day's or previous all-time high, I should say, which is at 1552. This level is able to hold. We got room towards the 1587 resistance on the upside. That level breaks. 1622 will be tested. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 1524 to 1498 on the downside. Overall on this shop, going to be leaning more on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push to the upside. What needs to happen is we need to hold above that all-time high range breakout, confirm for the next leg up. But overall, looks pretty good on the daily for continuation. Let's take a look at this NVIDIA here, guys. NVIDIA gapping up. Pretty similar levels to the last day, except we're going to get another little resistance level to the upside using last day's range and a fib. I'm actually going to get two. All righty. So the pivot to the upside today, guys, is going to be this 536.92 level. If this level is able to hold, we got room towards 840.85 to 845.85. That level breaks, 851.85 will be tested. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 828.67 to the 820.11 area on the downside on NVIDIA. Overall, in this name, going to be leaning on the bullish side today. Looking for a continuation push to the upside as well. Needs to reclaim that pivot point for the next leg up, and we'll see if it's able to do so. So that is shop. That is NVIDIA. Let's take a screenshot of these two, and let's move on to the next. So next two names we're going to be looking at today, guys, are going to be BHVN and OPNT. Oh, sorry, Zoom and BHVN. So Zoom gapping up on continuation from last day's move. Actually, a nice looking daily chart. A bit of a range break to the upside in the short term. Room for continuation. Got this little resistance at 405, and then once that's broken, quite a bit of room higher. This little level here as well, 419s. All right, let's take a look at this thing intraday here. All right, so pivot to the upside today is going to be 405. That level's unable to hold. We got room towards 395.53 to the 387.23 on the downside. If we're able to hold this range breakout area on the upside, we do have quite a bit of room, as we talked about before. 419.88 to 428.21 are the next two levels on the upside. So we'll have to see what happens in regards to the next leg up if that breaks and holds above that pivot point today. Going to be leaning on the bullish side just because it has a ton of room to push, but confirmation is going to be key, aka a hold of that pivot point this morning. So I'll be keeping a keen eye on that. Let's take a look at this BHVN. So BHVN gapping up on basically reporting Q2 Nurtec ODT sales of 93 million. Reporting part of the earnings, I guess, early. Stock's at about 111.72. So what do we have? We have a break of all-time high range to the upside. I believe we're going to be into the top channel area as well. Let's actually draw that out. See exactly where that is in just a second. Let's do some fib extensions as well. All right, let's take a look at this name intraday here. Oh my gosh, see the upper end level. There we go. All right, so pivot to the upside today, guys. 109.96. Sorry, 109.69. This level is able to hold. We got room towards 114.09 on the upside. That level breaks. Room to that 116.96 level next. Unable to hold, look for a pullback towards 106.91 to the 103.38 on the downside. Overall, going to be leaning on the bullish side today. Looking for a hold of pivot continuation higher, only if that pivot point can hold. We do have an all-time high range breakout on, decent positive news. If that pivot can hold, I do think we can get the next leg up. Should get a nice little push for continuation to the upside. So that is Zoom and that is BHVN. All right, let's take a look at the next two names here. Next two names, Dare and OPNT. So we have that OPNT that's gapping up on their pause up top line results for one of their studies. It came out yesterday after hours. A little bit of a range break to the upside in the short term. Former runner, as we can see here as well. Quite the amount of range after that news came out. Upper end in the after hours was around 24.21. Okay, that's that. All right, 2056 guys, going to be the pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold, we got room towards 2306 to 2535. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 1721 to 1418 on the downside. Actually going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side of OPNT today. Looking for a little bit of a pull, some basing along some support, and then looking for a continuation push back to the upside if that basing can hold. So that's what I'll be looking for here. Let's take a look at this dare. It's basically a $50 million grant. Market cap 75 million. So that's pretty significant for the company, obviously. Very significant. So stock's at about what, 232. All right, so pivots at the upside today, guys, is going to be around this 222 level. Level's able to hold. We get room towards 259 to $3. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback to 199 to the 177 area on the upside. Overall, in this name, going to be leaning a little bit on the bullish side of the gate. I'll be leaning, I guess, bearish today. Looking for a pop and then some topping and a pullback. It is, already up 50%. Obviously, a big move. I think you got a little bit more room to the upside, and then you will see some topping in the name come in, and then we can see what happens in the afternoon. But we'll be leaning a little bit on the bearish side of the gate, looking for a pop and that topping to occur to take some on the short side this morning. So that's OPNT, and that is Dare. All righty, let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. So those are the individual names that we got going on today. Let's take a look at the market. Let's take a look at the FANG. So SPY, what happened yesterday? little bit of a double top at all-time highs. A little bit of a rejection there. Still going to be the same levels though. So 433.94 pivot to the upside today. Levels able to hold. They got room towards 434.65 to 435.57. Unable to hold 433.22 to 432.67 will be tested on the downside. Overall on SPY, going to be leaning on the bullish side today, looking for a continuation push higher. If we can break and hold above that pivot point, if we can break, if we can get above that pivot, we should have an outside day. We should have some room to the upside. Unable to do so, we'll have probably a wide ranged inside day again. So we'll have to keep an eye on what goes on there. Big thing about, or big difference between yesterday and today is market was extended to the upside. Yesterday it did fill the gap, so we should have room for continuation to the upside based off of that EMA support holding and being reclaimed. But again, we'll have to wait and see what happens. Apple, let's take a look at what's going on here. So Apple pivot to the upside today, 141.93. And actually, we're going to use last day's high as well. That level is able to hold. Get room to the 143.15 level, which is testing to the 144.29. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on Apple towards that 140 to 138.81 on the downside. Overall on Apple, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation grind higher if that pivot point can hold. So that is Apple. Let's take a look at Amazon, which, as we all know, got a huge range break to all-time highs yesterday on the weekly, monthly, daily. Beautiful chart. All right, let's go take a look at this thing intraday here. All right, pivot to the upside today, guys. 36.79. Levels able to hold 37.21 to 37.74 will be tested on the, 37.75 will be tested on the upside. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 36.37 to the 3600 level on the downside. And I'll get levels obviously on continuation of the upside if we do break through these resistance levels, which is fairly possible. I had 38.22 above that 37.75, if you guys remember from yesterday. That's kind of my weekly target, which I do believe we hit possibly today. But yeah, so 36.79 pivot, and I am going to be leaning bullish on Amazon, looking for continuation higher. Typically, when you get a big breakout on the daily, monthly, you get a couple days of follow through, and then consolidation occur. So I'll be looking for further continuation today. That's Amazon. Let's take a look at Netflix. See how that spread does on Amazon we have on. Okay, so Netflix, guys, pivot to the upside today. And if we look at the daily here, which we should real quick. See that, testing a breakout range to the upside. Downtrend on the daily has been broken. So that's nice and bullish. Pivot's going to be that 546 level. That level is able to hold. We got room for continuation towards the 550s. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback into 541.40 to 537.30 on the downside. And overall on Netflix, going to be leaning on the bullish side today, looking for a continuation higher. All right, let's take a look at Facebook. So Facebook flagging on the upside on the daily, unable to break out yesterday, a little bit of a double top as well. 354.89 pivot, levels able to hold. 358.13 to 360.28 will be tested. Unable to hold. 350.49 to that 346.91 on the downside will be tested. Overall on Facebook, leaning bullish, looking for a continuation push higher today. All right, let's take a look at Google. Last but not least. All right, pivot to the upside today, guys. It's going to be this 251 area. Sorry, 2552. That level is able to hold. We got room towards 2588.91. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on Google into the 2531 on the downside to that 2519 level. Overall, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side, looking for a continuation push higher. If we can break back above that pivot point, nice chart on the daily, all-time high range breakout with room. So, I do like it for continuation. All right, let's take a look at VIX. $16.60 pivot, levels able to hold. $17.50 will be tested, unable to hold. $15.51 on the downside. So keep an eye on the VIX pivot today, guys. I don't have any way I'm leaning on it. I just use it for direction on the market. So that's the whole point of looking at this. Take a look at the IWM and the Qs real quick as well. All right, so QQQs, guys, gapping up all above all-time highs. Let's use the first level, I guess. So pivot to the upside today is going to be 362.14. Levels able to hold. 362.91 will be tested. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback to 360.64 to that 358 level on the downside. Just gonna get one more level. There we go. 364, 21. Okay. So overall on the Qs, looking like they're going to be leaning on the bullish side today, looking for a continuation higher. We'll see what happens there. So that's the Qs. Let's take a look at IWM. So IWM being quite heavy the last couple of days. Ugly look on the daily chart. Well, it's starting to look a little bit uglier on the daily chart, I should say. Testing EMA support on the downside. Pivot to the downside today is going to be that 226.44 level. Unable to be reclaimed. Room towards 224.34 to 222.89. Able to hold 227.90 to 229.42 will be tested on the upside. And overall, on the Q is going to be leaning on the bear side today, looking for continuation lower. Look at the big caps hold up, continue to push. You'll see the small caps come in a little bit more today. So that's IWM. All right, guys. So that's the spots of FANG. Those are the individual names that we're looking at today. I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to South Beach. While I type up the pre-market action plan, and I'll talk to you guys shortly. South Beach, if you're ready, it's all yours.
Hey guys. Okay. So let's see what we got going on today. All right. The whole story is the bond market. Let's call it what it is. Okay. 10 years trading at 131 down 0.06. It got smashed yesterday. Okay. Breaking all kinds of support, et cetera, et cetera. And the yield curve is flattening as well. Let me just look at the foreign markets. So you have the 10-year down in London, 0.04, Germany, 0.03. They're down to negative 0.30. Everywhere it's down, okay? Basically. Not basically. Everywhere it's down. Yield curve flattening everywhere, and the yield is lower. Okay, so what's going on here? And that's really important to understand. And I don't think anybody has a complete handle on it. Like, what is doing? Is the bond market telling us that this GDP growth narrative that the market has been jumping all over, and earnings are going to be through the roof kind of situation, and stocks are going to grow into these their currently high PE? Is that what's going on? And that narrative is being questioned? Possible. Is it that maybe funds are too long and they got caught off guard and they're out of position, and they got kind of stopped out on their positions? Possibly. Could it be that Chinese investors and the Chinese in their attempt to get money out of China, how they did it with crypto, now they're buying US bonds as an alternative to crypto? Possibly. Could it be Europeans are sick of their crappy currency and they're buying US bonds that yield a lot more with a better currency behind them? Possibly. We don't know the answer, okay? But on the face of things, either way you look at it, you got to question that GDP growth narrative, okay? And that's what the market did yesterday, okay? And the stocks that require the GDP growth narrative were soft, and the companies that thrive on low earnings, the ability to borrow money cheaply, did great, okay? And I think we're going to see that same thing today. So we come in and we see this bond market, and the bond market, I always tell you, they're the smartest guys in the room, okay, by a lot. Okay, the stock guys are idiots. The bond guys are smart. That's always been the case. Okay, and they're telling us, okay, guys, be careful in the banks, be careful in cyclicals, insurance, cruise lines, hotels, airlines, retail, all that stuff that requires GDP growth should be soft, right? and the stuff that, thrives in a low interest rate, easy money environment should do well. Okay, so you see high PE tech going to be strong. You're going to see FANG strong. You're going to see semiconductors strong. Solar and EV should do well because they borrow lots of dough. Okay, and then you have the ones that I just mentioned that should be soft. That's the way it should, the market should perform today, unless one of those other narratives that I gave you, why the bond market is so heavy, is true, and we won't know. I mean, there's really no way to tell. Okay, do I think traders were caught out of position? Yes. Do I think that accounts for this monster move? No. Okay. Do I think that people are buying US bonds because then they want to get out of whatever currency they're in? Yes, I do. Okay. I don't know. I don't blame them. But that being said, does it account for this move? I mean, I think it's probably a combination of everything. I think this Delta virus, Delta or whatever it's called, variant is significant. I think I've run into too many people that refuse to get a vaccine. So people are a little nervous that that's going to cause a uptick in viruses when the summer's over. That's possible. But all these things are just telling you what groups to be in today. I mean, you can dig down and try to figure out the cause, but actually at the end of the day, does it do you any good? No. Okay. The reality is this is where we're at. This is what the bond market's telling us. And if I had the ability, I would borrow as much money as I could and just keep it in the drawer somewhere. Okay, because I think eventually things have to turn. Okay, so that's the bond market, and I think that's the big thing that's going on today by a mile. All right, let's look at other things that we look at every morning. All right, let's look at commodities. So you have oil up 50 cents. You have that UAE, Saudi Arabia tussle going on. We'll see what happens with that. I don't think it really matters either way, to be honest. You have gold up and silver up, copper's up 8 cents. So that doesn't jive with the bond market for sure, right? You would think it would be going down, but it's not. And the fact of the matter is materials are strong this morning after a week yesterday. And you would think they would open lower, and they're not. So that's a little bit puzzling. Okay, lumber bounced off that 700 level up to 820, and agricultural commodities are kind of mixed to a little stronger today, I'd say. On the currency area, we have the dollar down against North America. We have it up against Japan, down against China just a bit, and the euro is pinned at 118. In the crypto world, you've had guys rolling out. Coinbase says they think this is the beginning of the end of the, the correction. You had that guy that got kicked out of the White House was just on TV, whatever his name is, Scaramucci. He was saying that he's bullish on crypto, and he's coming out with some ETFs. So we'll see what happens with that. In the indexes, let's see what we have. We have the FTSE. It was up a little more. It's up 0.3%, and we have Germany up 1%. And over in Asia, the Chinese are up a little bit, Hong Kong's down a little bit, and the Nikkei's down 1%. So that's really the wrap up of what's going on. Let's see what else we got today. So we have the Fed there coming out with their minutes, I think today, right? We'll see what they have to say. I don't think there'll be a whole lot in it, but you never know. Okay. So we'll see. That should be, that could move the markets. It always can move the markets, and that could move the bond market for sure. Then you have China. They want to have a greater oversight over companies listing in foreign markets, and there was some kind of loophole basically, if you incorporate it out of China, you can list overseas. I think they're trying to get in front of the US saying something that would be, we don't want these, either they do, go with general accepted accounting principles, or they don't list here, because this is a joke. All right, so I think they got in front of it to save face. That's my opinion, but we'll see. Nevertheless, you know what I think of the Chinese securities. Trade them, don't own them. Okay, that's my philosophy there. Additionally, China was saying that this is important too. There's rumors around that China is going to lower their reserve requirements. And make no mistake, China is the engine that gets the world going, okay? And so that being said, I think that would be a shot in the arm for GDP growth if they were going to do that. I don't know. It is a rumor going around, okay? Crypto, we discussed. Oil market, we discussed. The virus, it's the Delta the Delta variant that's really important. I don't know, get your vaccine and you won't have to worry about it. The dollar we discussed, and Mr. Market. So let's see, Mr. Market got smoked in the middle of the day yesterday and rallied back pretty strongly, okay, which was nice to see. High PE tech was the leader on the long side, and you had those companies that need GDP growth on the short side, right? Banks, insurance, materials, machinery, home builders, big oil, E&P, and China, right? Okay, so that was yesterday. I discussed what I think is going to happen today. All right, so that's that. Okay. All right, what else we have going on today? We saw that big contract, that Jedi contract for 10 billion. Now the Trump's history, it's going to be split, it looks like, between Microsoft and Amazon. Huge shot in the arm for Amazon, and huge shot in the arm for the guy who's now running Amazon, who oversaw that division. Okay, that got the contract. We see that Russia did a hacking on the RNC. I think Biden will do something. He said he would when he met Putin. This is ridiculous already, and enough of this crap. Okay, this is nothing happens in Russia without Putin's okay, and he obviously gave the thumbs up to continue what's going on, and it's unacceptable behavior. And if Biden doesn't say something, I would be surprised. And that's that. Okay, Axta made a $590 million acquisition. Keep an eye on that one. IMMR had some positive news as well. Look at that one. DARE got a grant from the Gates Foundation for $49 million. I traded it this morning, bought it, sold it. I still have remnants left. What else? ONCS clinical trial collaboration with Merck. That's why that one's up. SBTX supply agreement with Regeneron. Biohaven's new migraine drug you're kind of supposed to take as a preventive as opposed to reactive. Had a lot of users. The stock's up on that news. XBIT had a $2.50 extra dividend, and Steel Dynamics announced a $1 billion stock buyback. Those are the significant news that I saw. Okay. Syndicate wise, we have a 6 million share secondary in EFC. Never heard of the company. 1822 was priced at 1822, closed at 1888. Morgan Stanley. The syndicate calendar is quiet today, as it always is the week after July 4th. There's 3 IPOs slated, and at the current time, there's one more secondary coming down. What else? Research. Let's look at that quickly. Okay. What do we have? Short side. Let me see if I answered any of your questions before I get into that crap. Do I think it's too late to fade the banks? I mean, you can trade them, Citrini. I will. I trade them every day. Not sure. I'm going to keep an eye on the bond market when I trade them. Do I go in and short the opening? Probably not the best idea. Okay, see how they act. Don't push the button for 10 minutes. Okay, just watch. And we'll be able to ascertain what the institutions are going to do and try to get in front of the institutions. You know, from the onset, I am not going to push the button for the first 10 minutes. Okay, that's my initial thinking. All right, just cool your jets. All right, you know, historically, I like to buy weakness in banks on the opening and short and fade a pop. But, you know, we're not in that trip. We're kind of sort of coming out of that little trading range. So I'm going to trade it like that. I'm going to wait. Okay. Yeah. Don't play defense. Let's see what it goes. Okay. Let's look back at the research. Sorry. So you had this Keith Brouette initiated a bunch of banks. These guys are really good at banks and they're really good at insurance stocks. And they have other things that they follow, but all that they suck at everything else but banks and insurance. Okay. So they must have gotten a new bank analyst and they came out with some recs. On the sell side, you had TFC, that's that Truist with a 49 target, stocks 54, RF sell target 18, stocks 1958. Will I react to those two calls? No. Okay. But if I do go short the banks, I may think Truist TFC one that would work. Okay. Masco was downgraded at JP, target 61. I don't think that's actionable. Raymond James downgraded a bunch of names. I don't think any of it's actionable. SAGN, CRNC, ERII. Wells Fargo took a look at some of the oil stocks. They don't like CPE or LPI or OAS. I don't think that's actionable either, to be honest. Okay, that was all the calls on the short side that I saw. Let's look at the long side. So, you know, circling back to Keith Brouette, which names do they like? They like US Bancorp, they like Citibank, they like MTB, Wells Fargo, and Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley is my favorite. I've told you that many times over the last year. The reason being, I think, you know, everybody's earnings are going to get a little better as we came out of this pandemic, but these guys are moving towards a different model when they started buying some of these mutual fund companies, which deserve and get a higher PE. So I think that their PE was based upon them being, you know, when earnings are kind of, you know, not assured, like a mutual fund company, you kind of sort of know what the earnings are going to be. With these brokerage and bank stocks, not so much. So you get a higher PE. And that's why that was my argument why I like Morgan Stanley the most, because they are moving that way. So they like Morgan and they had a 115 target, Wells Fargo 57. I like Wells Fargo as my second choice because of the management change. You went from garbage to greatness. And I think that's a big factor. And they like Citibank. I don't know, there's a new girl in charge, new woman in charge, you know, the jury's out there. So we'll see. So that's that. Whirlpool, Goldman Sachs likes it, buy, target 280, less discounting going on. Yeah, I'm out of time, guys. So that's how it goes. Other things that stood out was Coin. I like that call. I like the Sam Adams call out of Credit Suisse. And the SAP call was a big sea change there as well. Sell to buy, Bank America, target 177. So those are the calls that I thought, those three I stood out: Coin, Sam, and SAP, and Whirlpool. Okay. All right. I'm out of time. Spartan, it's all yours.
All right. Thanks, South Beach. Morning, guys. What's going on? So let's do a quick little recap of what we talked about this morning. Just real quick here. This is what we have for the action plan. So you can, if you guys are watching the YouTube stream, you can just pause and read it. But here you go. Obviously, you can see all the charts and stuff is posted. On the option side, we have something similar, but for options. There you go. Okay, cool. All right, let's take a look at what we got going on today, guys. So pre-market tickers on watch, a couple different things. Shop, NVIDIA, Zoom, BHVN, OPNT, DARE. Shop gapping up a continuation from last day's move. Same with NVIDIA and Zoom. BHVN reports Q2 Neurotech ODT sales of 93 million. Stocks gapping up on that. OPNT announced positive top line results for one of its studies, gapping up. And then Dare, these guys entered into an agreement with the Bill and Melinda Foundation and were awarded a grant up to $49 million. Stocks gapping up. Let's take a look at these names from a technical standpoint intraday. First two we're going to be looking at are Shop and NVIDIA. So Shop, guys, gapping up. Stock is just above all-time highs from previous range breakout level. 1552.23 is the pivot to the upside today. That level is able to hold. We got room towards 1587.74 to 1622. Unable to hold 1524.86 to 1498.93 will be tested on the downside. Overall on Shop, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. NVIDIA pivot to the upside, guys, is going to be the 836.92 level. This level is able to hold towards 840.85 to 845.85 on the upside. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 828.67 to 820.11 on the downside. Overall on NVIDIA, leaning bullish neutral as well, looking for a reclaim of that pivot point, continuation to the upside today. Let's take a look at Zoom. Let's take a look at BHVN. Zoom pivot to the upside today is going to be the 405 level. Level's able to hold. You got room towards the 420. Sorry, let's actually go to the daily because I can't even see them. Got room towards the 419.88 to 428.21. Unable to hold. Look for a pullback to 395.51 to the 387.19 level on the downside. Overall on Zoom going to be leading bullish, looking for the next leg up to the upside if we can break and hold above that pivot point this morning. So we kind of need to basically hold above it for confirmation. And then I think we can get the next leg to the upside there. So we'll see what happens in that regard. Let's take a look at BHVN. 109.69 pivot. This level is able to hold. We have room for continuation into the 114.09 level to 116.96. Unable to hold, look for a pullback to 106.91 to that 103.38 level on the downside. Overall on the BHVN, going to be leaning on the bullish side today, looking for a continuation push higher if that pivot point can hold. If not, then obviously we'll see it come in a little bit. Let's take a look at OPNT. Let's take a look at Dare. Okay, there you go. OPNT, guys, pivot to the upside today is going to be 2056. Levels able to hold. You got room towards 2306 to 2535. Unable to hold, look for a pullback on the name towards 1721 to 1410 on the downside. Overall on the OPNT, going to be leaning bullish, but looking for a pullback and basing to take the name on the long side today. Let's take a look at Dare. Pivot 222. Levels able to hold. They got room towards 259. That level breaks. $3 will be tested on the upside. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback on the name into the 199 to 172 on the downside. Going to be leaning on the bearish side today. Looking for a pop and topping out the gate to take the name on the short side. All right, let's take a look at the SPY and the FANG. All right, guys, market SPY, 433.94, pivot to the upside today. This level holds, room higher into the 434.65. Resistance breaks, we see the 435.57 level tested. Pivot unable to hold. Room lower into the 433.22 support. Breaks, we see the 432.87 support tested. Overall, leaning bullish neutral. So looking for a reclaim of that pivot point to the upside today on the daily and continuation to the upside. So that's the SPY, guys. Let's take a look at Apple. Apple pivot to the upside today is that 141.93 level. Level is able to hold 143.15 to 144.29 will be tested. Unable to hold 140 to 138.81 will be tested on the downside. Overall leaning bullish. I want to see this push to all-time highs on the daily And I do believe it will. Amazon pivot to the upside today is going to be the 36.79 level. Levels able to hold 37.21 to 37.75 will be tested. Unable to hold 36.37 to 3600 will be tested on the downside. And overall on that name, going to be leaning on the bullish side today, looking for a continuation push higher. Let's take a look at Netflix. Netflix pivot, guys, is going to be the Netflix pivot's going to be the 545.96 level. Levels able to hold 549.57 will be tested on the upside. Unable to hold 541.40 to 537.30 on the downside. Overall, Netflix leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push higher today. Let's take a look at the Facebook. Facebook pivot, guys, to the upside is going to be 354.89. Levels able to hold 358.13 to 360.28 will be tested. Unable to hold, we look for a pullback towards 350.49 on the downside. Overall on Facebook, leaning bullish as well, looking for a continuation push back towards all-time highs. We'll see if we can break through them today. Let's take a look at Google here. Google pivot on the upside is going to be the 25.52. Levels able to hold 25.88 will be tested. Unable to hold 25.31 to 25.19 on the downside. Overall on Google, going to be leaning bullish neutral, looking for a continuation push to the upside today. So that is Google. All right, let's take a look at the VIX. So pivot on the upside today, VIX is going to be the 1660, levels able to hold 1750, unable to hold 1551 on the downside. We'll see what happens in that regard. Overall on Google, overall on the VIX, not leaning any direction, just using it for direction on the actual SPY itself. QQQs. So a nice little gap up, holding the level decently here. 362.14 pivot. Levels able to hold. We got room towards 364.21. Sorry, 362.91, then 364.21. Unable to hold 360.64 to 358.97 on the downside will be tested. Overall on the Qs, going to be leaning on the bullish neutral side today, looking for a continuation push higher. So that is the QQQ. And then last but not least, guys, IWM pivot to the upside today is going to be the downside, I should say. Pivot on the downside should be the 226.44 level. Levels unable to hold 224.34 to 222.89. Able to hold 227.90 to 229.42 will be tested on the upside. And overall on the IWM, going to be leaning a little bit more on the bearish neutral side today. So we'll see what happens today. Should be an interesting day, guys. But yeah, that's it. If you guys have any questions, you can go to SpartanTrading.com. Otherwise, thanks for popping in on the YouTube stream, and we'll see you guys next week.